It's Joe Zikas from YoChicago.com. I'm on the south side today in Brighton Park, starting a tour of projects that carry the name of McKinley, but most of them are in Brighton Park or back of the yards. They're not in McKinley Park, even though they take that name. This one is Mckinley Gardens, and you're looking at some of the foundations for what was supposed to be phase 2 of this almost 70-unit development. Most of the units went into foreclosure at one point. Values are off 35–40% or more. And phase 2, here's phase 2. It's been sitting there like that for about 5 years. The project was developed by Bill Warman, who's probably best known for some of his south side high-rises that developed severe construction defects one point or another along the way. We're hard on the freight railroad tracks here and hard on the Stevenson Expressway. You can literally probably see the trucks flying past the Stevenson from your window on some of these units. Do have fairly good proximity to the orange line. It's a good place to get out of. Has a very barracks-like feel to it. I'm at 3558 South Artesian here. This ornate Italianate home, or what's left of it, is, believe it or not, a Chicago landmark. It's the Juneau White House home. He was the superintendent of the DuPont gunpowder and explosives plant, which occupied the majority of the neighborhood at the time this home was built in 1876. A neighbor told me that the last he knew, the home had been listed for sale for $350,000. But he didn't know if that was still accurate. And what I'm looking at as I swing around was the site that was going to be named McKinley Park Village. Dubin Residential. Original plans for this site called for the development of 134 three-story townhomes, but the proposal was later revised to 370 condos, townhouses, and rental units on what's a 5.7-acre site here. Those proposals were 5 years ago, and as you can see, none of it's come to pass. It does have pretty convenient access to Western Avenue, to the overpass from the Orange Line, which you see up ahead, and to an Orange Line stop not far from here. And the website, depending on which page you look at, still says it's coming in 2010 or 2011. Not happening, as you can see. Here's a development that never even showed up on my radar. It's a row of townhomes, all boarded up, covered with graffiti. Built between an alley on one side, which is what you're looking at here, and the railroad tracks on the other side. There's the east side of that row of townhomes. The opposite side of the tracks is McKinley Park Village, which we had just looked at. And as you can see, the orange line. Looks like the graffiti artists have been active here. You have to ask yourself, what were they thinking? Oh, you would have had a nice prairie grass embankment in your front yard. In the distance, you can see the boarded up townhomes that we just looked at on an alley on one side, railroad tracks on the other. And we're swinging around to take a look at a block-long site between 35th and 36th on Maplewood, where a warehouse was torn down years ago to make way for the townhomes of Maplewood Court. where the sign still says it's coming soon. But it's pretty obvious that soon is not happening very soon. I'm now at Western View Condominiums, 4000 Southwestern. This was a project of Dolce Living, which we visited recently at the western edge of Logan Square, where I saw an 8 flat that appeared to have been a vehicle for mortgage fraud. 6 of the 8 units sold for substantially above their asking price and went into foreclosure very quickly after closing. Been quite a few foreclosures in this project already. A unit that sold for $370,000 in May of 2008. We sold last October for $49,000. Let me repeat that. From $370,000 to $49,000. Another unit that sold for $339,000 in February of 2008. Resold last December for $103,500. It's Western Avenue. One of the attractions here would be Orange Line not far away. Easy access to the Stevenson Expressway. And if your in-unit washer dryer goes on the fritz, you've got Su Nueva Lavanderia right next door. Just down the street from Western View, where we just were, right there, is Western View 2 at 4150 Southwestern Avenue. This is phase 2 of Western View. First floor is covered with graffiti, as is the first floor of Western View. No retail occupancy at ground level, as is the case with Western View. And we've got the constant roar of traffic moving along Western Avenue behind us. It's the final stop on my McKinley Park tour. Looking at the back of the yards neighborhood, across the street from McKinley Park and the McKinley Park Fieldhouse. It's a beautiful park, large park. This is towards the western end of an awesome row of warehouses backed by a gigantic freight distribution yard. The back of the yards neighborhood. A little bit east of here was the first really planned industrial park, allegedly, in the United States. And as we swing around, we're looking at McKinley Park Lofts. This was a 163-unit development begun by the Habitat Company in 2005, I think, 2006 at the latest. A couple years back, Habitat was one of the first to recognize where the market was going and cut its losses by taking 34 units to auction and liquidating them. As with all of the other projects we've looked at, the years haven't been kind to the buyers. A unit that sold in November of 2006 for $293,500 went into foreclosure in March of 2010, and it's currently on the market for $140,000. It's a 3-bedroom, 2-bath loft. The unit that sold in December of 2006 for $243,000, a 2-bedroom, 2-bath, has been on the market asking $99,900. Foreclosure in September on a unit purchased in August of 2006. Sold just about a week ago for $44,900 for a 1-bedroom, 1-bath with parking. Let me repeat that. Started at $149,000 in August of 2006. down to 44.9 about 10 days ago. And there are more foreclosures and more troubled resales. The unit is surrounded by the orange line, which you can see passing up there. Western Avenue, gigantic freight yard, and it does have as its front yard, depending on which way your unit is oriented, McKinley Park, which is a great park. One thing we haven't talked about, but that's worth at least a passing mention, is the demographics of the neighborhood that we've been looking at. Large chunks of the neighborhood are well below the median income. The demographics are 80% and in some cases 90%, depending on where you are, Hispanic/Latino. Majorities of the population in most of the census tracts around here did not complete high school, and college graduates are few and far between. 2% of the population, 4%, 7%, depending on which census tract you're looking at. Not an affluent area, not an educated area. And as you might expect, if you spend a little time down here and see the number of board-ups on single families and two flats, that form of housing has fared even worse than some of the condos and some of the lofts. You'll find single families, board-ups here selling for $8,000, $10,000, $11,000, $20,000, $30,000. Affordable if that's what you're looking for.